Have you ever noticed how a flower never looks at the one next to it and wonders, am I as beautiful as that? And yet, here we are, scrolling through the endless parade of other people's lives, quietly whispering to ourselves, I should be more like them. The strange thing is when you compare yourself to someone else, you are not comparing two real people. You are comparing your inner world with all its doubts and struggles to the polished, edited, and carefully curated surface of another's life. You are holding your raw truth up against someone else's highlight reel. That is like comparing the backstage of a play to the front row performance. It will always feel messy in the wrong light. We forget that the idea of better or worse is something humans invented. There is no measuring tape built into the universe that says, this person is worth more than that one. A mountain is not better than the ocean, and a sunrise is not worse than a sunset. They are simply different expressions of beauty. In the same way, you are not supposed to be them. You are supposed to be you entirely, unapologetically. The real tragedy of comparison is not that it makes you feel small, it is that it robs you of the ability to see your own greatness. You spend so much time staring into someone else's garden that you never notice the rare and precious flowers growing in your own. And even if you could plant the same seeds as another person, your soil, your climate, and your seasons will make them bloom in their own way. Life has a rhythm for you that cannot be borrowed. Some people will bloom early, others late. Some will sprint ahead, others will take winding paths through hidden valleys. The oak tree does not resent the cherry blossom for flowering first. It knows that its own time will come, and when it does, it will stand strong for centuries. So if you find yourself comparing, pause and remember, what you are looking at is not a standard to meet, but a reminder of possibility. Let others inspire you, not define you. Turn comparison into curiosity. What can I learn from this? Instead of condemnation, why am I not like that? And maybe, just maybe, you will discover the greatest truth of all. The moment you stop trying to be someone else, you finally become the one person you were meant to be. The belief that some people are inherently better and others worse is one of the most subtle yet damaging illusions we grow up with. From childhood, we are measured, graded, and ranked, told who is first, who is last, and where we stand in between. Over time, this becomes the lens through which we view the entire world. We start to think of life as a giant ladder, and our position on it determines our worth. The higher you climb, the more valuable you are. The lower you stay, the less you matter. But the truth is, this ladder exists only in our minds. Nature never built it. There is no cosmic scoreboard keeping track of who is winning at life and who is losing. What makes this illusion so powerful is that it feels real. You look around and see someone wealthier, more attractive, more talented, or more admired, and it seems obvious that they must be above you in some way. Yet you cannot measure worth the way you measure height or weight. The qualities that make a life meaningful, kindness, creativity, inner peace, resilience, cannot be stacked neatly against one another. They are unique expressions like colors in a painting. A deep shade of blue is not better than a bright yellow. They are different, and each adds its own beauty to the canvas. This illusion also ignores the complexity of human life. When you compare, you often focus on one visible aspect: their career, their body, their relationship, without seeing the unseen struggles, sacrifices, and costs behind it. You may admire the fruit on someone's tree, but have no idea what storms it has weathered, or what roots it had to grow in darkness before bearing that fruit. What you see is never the whole story. The danger of believing in better and worse is that it traps you in a constant cycle of judgment of yourself and of others. If you think you are better than someone, you feed arrogance. If you think you are worse, you feed insecurity. Both rob you of freedom. Instead of living fully, you are always looking sideways, checking where you stand. Life becomes a competition, and every encounter is a silent scorekeeping exercise. The alternative is to step away from the imaginary ladder and see life not as a race, but as a vast landscape where each person has their own path, their own view, and their own pace. When you stop measuring yourself against others, you open the door to a deeper kind of living, one where your worth is not conditional, but inherent, as natural and unquestionable as the worth of the sun or the sea. Most of the standards you use to judge yourself were never truly chosen by you. They were handed down silently, wrapped inside cultural messages, family expectations, advertising, and social norms. From an early age, you were told, sometimes directly and sometimes subtly, what a successful life looks like, what kind of body is considered beautiful, what kind of job earns respect, and what possessions signify status. These ideas are like garments tailored for someone else's body, yet you try to wear them as if they were made for you. The result is discomfort, dissatisfaction, and a sense that no matter what you do, it never quite fits. When you measure yourself by these borrowed standards, you are essentially living under someone else's blueprint for life. You might chase a career because it's seen as prestigious, not because it sets your soul on fire. You might strive for a physical image promoted in media, even if it requires you to sacrifice health, joy, and authenticity. This creates an invisible leash. You are moving, but you are not moving freely. Every step is constrained by what others might think or by the silent question, does this make me enough? The problem with adopting these external standards is that they shift constantly. Trends change, public opinions sway, and what is admired today may be forgotten tomorrow. If your sense of worth is tied to these moving targets, you will always be chasing and never arriving. It's like trying to hit a bullseye that keeps floating away just as you take aim. This also leads to a subtle erosion of identity. You stop asking, "What do I want?" and start asking, "What will make me look good?" or "What will make others approve of me?" In doing so, you trade authenticity for acceptance, not realizing that acceptance based on performance or appearance is fragile at best. True belonging comes from being seen and valued as you are, not for fitting into a mold. Breaking free from borrowed standards begins with awareness. You must pause and ask yourself, whose voice am I listening to? Who decided this is the right way to live? If the answer isn't you, then it might be time to let that standard go. This isn't about rejecting all influence, it's about choosing consciously which measures align with your values and which are simply echoes of someone else's life. When you release the need to live by borrowed measurements, you create space for your own definition of success, beauty, and fulfillment. And in that space, you discover the quiet relief of no longer competing in a race you never chose to run. When you compare yourself to others, you are not only distorting reality, you are stepping out of your own life. Your attention shifts from the path beneath your feet to the path someone else is walking, and in that moment, you stop truly living your own story. It is as if you are holding a camera, but instead of filming your journey, you are obsessed with filming theirs, hoping that somehow their scenes will give you meaning. This has a cost, and it is not small. You begin to overlook your own blessings because your gaze is fixed on what someone else has. You might fail to notice that while they have a bigger house, you have deeper friendships. While their career may seem more glamorous, yours gives you freedom and peace. But these treasures remain invisible to you when your eyes are locked on someone else's garden. What makes comparison even more deceptive is that you rarely see the full truth of another person's life. Social media, casual conversations, and public appearances often show only the edited version, the best angles, the brightest smiles, the most flattering achievements. You do not see the late-night doubts, the sacrifices made in private, or the parts of their life that they wish were different. And yet, you judge your entire existence against their highlight reel, creating a false and unfair measurement. Living in this constant shadow of someone else's life drains your energy. It turns your days into a silent competition where you are always checking if you are ahead or behind. This focus on comparison not only creates dissatisfaction, but also prevents growth. Energy that could be spent developing your own skills, nurturing your relationships, or exploring your passions is instead consumed by thoughts of where you stand in relation to someone else. The truth is, The soil in their garden is not the same as yours. The seeds they planted were not yours to plant. The weather they face, the opportunities, the challenges, the timing is unique to them. Even if you tried to duplicate their life exactly, the result would not be the same because you are not them. Freedom comes when you return your gaze to your own path and ask, what is here for me to nurture? What beauty can I create in my own garden? When you do this, you begin to see that you are not in a race, and there is no universal scoreboard. Life is not about beating someone else to a destination. It is about fully inhabiting the journey that was given to you. And when you do that, you may find that what you already have is more than enough. In nature, nothing grows according to a shared timetable. A cherry blossom bursts into color early in spring, while an oak tree spends years building its strength before showing its true majesty. Neither is late and neither is early, each follows its own rhythm, guided by forces beyond human control. Yet in human life, we often ignore this truth and insist that everyone should reach certain milestones at the same time. We measure our progress against the timeline of others and feel anxious if we are not moving at their pace. This is where much unnecessary suffering begins. You might see someone your age starting a family, buying a house, or achieving a career milestone, and you wonder why you are not there yet. The mind whispers you're falling behind. But behind according to whom? The clock you are following was likely built from cultural norms, social pressure, and the invisible expectations you've absorbed over time. Life, however, does not operate on one single schedule. Every person's circumstances, opportunities, and inner readiness are unique. When you try to synchronize your life with someone else's, you begin to force what should be natural. You might rush into decisions, take paths that don't suit you, or abandon dreams because they don't match the speed of those around you. This is like planting a seed and then digging it up every week to see if it has grown enough. The very act of comparison disrupts the natural process. Your timeline is not a mistake. Every delay you experience, every detour you take can serve a purpose that is invisible in the moment but clear in hindsight. Some people seem to rise quickly, but their growth may be shallow and unsustainable. Others appear to move slowly, but they are developing deep roots that will support them for a lifetime. The oak tree does not envy the cherry blossom's quick bloom. It knows that its own time will come, and when it does, it will stand for centuries. Trusting your own timeline requires patience and faith, patience to allow your life to unfold without constant interference, and faith that your journey is leading you exactly where you need to go. It means understanding that being late or early is just an illusion when the destination is unique to each traveler. When you let go of the need to match someone else's pace, you free yourself from a race that doesn't exist. You begin to walk your own path with a lighter heart, appreciating each step for what it is rather than judging it against where you think you should be. And in that space, life feels less like a competition and more like the unfolding of a story, one that was written for you alone. Noticing someone else's achievements is not the problem. The problem begins when those achievements become proof of your own inadequacy. This is where comparison shifts from being a source of insight to a source of pain. But it doesn't have to be this way. The same act of observing another's success can either tear you down or lift you up, depending on how you choose to interpret it. When you see someone who is skilled, accomplished, or thriving, it can serve as a reminder that such possibilities exist in the world. Their success is not a signal that you have failed, but evidence that what you desire can be reached by a human being, and therefore, it can also be reached by you. The gap between you and them is not a wall. It is a bridge waiting to be crossed through your own effort, patience, and creativity. The difference lies in the mindset. If you approach others' achievements with jealousy, you will remain trapped in resentment and self-doubt. But if you approach them with curiosity, you open the door to learning. Ask yourself, what choices brought them here? What skills did they develop? What challenges did they overcome? Instead of being intimidated by their journey, you can be inspired by it. There is also great value in realizing that inspiration does not mean imitation. You are not meant to become a copy of anyone else. Their path was shaped by their own strengths, weaknesses, and circumstances. What you can take from them is not their exact method, but the underlying principles: persistence, creativity, discipline, courage. Then you can adapt those principles to your own path in a way that suits your nature and goals. This shift turns comparison into a tool for growth rather than a source of suffering. Instead of saying, "They have it, so I can't," you begin to think, "They have it, so it's possible." Instead of, "I'm so far behind," you think, "I'm just at a different chapter of my story." This way of thinking protects your self-worth while still allowing you to be motivated by what you see in others. Ultimately, the measure of your life is not whether you outshine anyone else, but whether you are steadily becoming more of who you are capable of being. Other people's successes can illuminate parts of the road you have yet to travel, but the journey itself is yours to take. When you let their light guide you rather than blind you, you stop competing for someone else's life and start creating the fullest expression of your own. And in that shift, comparison stops being a thief of joy and becomes a spark that fuels it. The heart of this entire message is simple but life-changing. You are not here to be someone else, and your worth was never meant to be measured against another person's life. The ladder of better and worse exists only in the human mind, built from borrowed standards and shifting expectations. When you compare yourself to others, you step out of your own story, ignoring your blessings and losing sight of the unique path you were given. Life has its own timing for each of us, and trying to match someone else's pace is like forcing a tree to bloom before its season. Instead, you can choose to trust your journey, knowing that your growth, your milestones, and your successes will come in their own perfect rhythm. The truth is, other people's achievements are not threats to your worth, they are reminders of possibility. You can let them inspire you rather than define you, turning comparison into curiosity, and curiosity into growth. The moment you stop racing in someone else's lane, you free yourself to walk your own with clarity and peace. And in that freedom, you will find that your life was never meant to be a replica of another's, but an original masterpiece, one that only you can create.